All right, and here we go. So, uh, so we watch the beginning of the run here. Both our runners are going to start off by doing our equipment glitch. They're going to go and change some few settings, but for the most part, we are focusing on this equipment glitch. We are morphing the hammer that we're buying at the very beginning into an item called the Knight's Armor. The Knight's Armor will allow us to be basically invulnerable at this part of the game. Also, we were making 5 of them instead of 4. 1 extra just for selling at the item shop to buy all our items for the run. Crrool just flies through those menus. He is extremely consistent in menus. He's probably one of the best in the game at menus. But both Crrool and Poorscythe are both very, very good at this game. Now, the way that equipment glitch works is kind of interesting. Every weapon and every piece of armor has an internal game ID assigned to it. So let's pretend the hammer is weapon number 1 and the knight's armor is item number 1. If you have one character selected on the weapon slot and the character next to them is selected on one of the armor slots, if you page over using the right shoulder button and the X button at the same time, while you're selecting your list of available weapons, it'll bring up those item IDs under the armor classifications for the next character. So it tricks the game in letting you get weapons or armor early in the run. So the knight's armor is not something we can usually get until a little later in the run, and it's also a very expensive item. So other than critical hits and magic attacks, we're basically invulnerable. Most attacks will do 1 or 2 damage at this point in the run. Also, it will allow us to put that equipment on any character, not just on the knight. So it's very, very, very powerful. Also, the 1 extra we use for selling to fund our run. Now we're doing another glitch. We're changing the leather helm into Judgment Staff. This is a much bigger deal. The Judgment Staff is usually only available in a bonus dungeon, kind of get some kind of super bosses. In addition to being more powerful than any sword we can get at this point in the game, it allows us to cast the Spare Flare, the most powerful black magic in the game, for free. For anyone familiar with Final Fantasy I, Flare is the same thing as Nuke for the original version. And so it looks like Crrool has some little better early luck with the encounters and gets to Chaos first. A lot of this game is going to come down to encounter luck, especially when you have 2 runners of this caliber up against each other. So Crrool squeaks in under 3 minutes there for his Garland time. That's less than you would want in like a PV run, but it's 3 minutes is pretty good for a race. Poorscythe is just getting horrid luck with these encounters. So Crrool's gonna have a little time save here. If he tries to walk away at the end of this text box, he gets called back by the apprentice. If he walks up to her and talks to her directly, it saves a text box and the walking away and back animation. That's a little tiny time save, might save a second or 2. But, considering that earlier today, Seiya missed the world record by 1 second, a second can count. And Poorscythe really is having really unlucky encounter rates. But at this point in the game, it doesn't really matter. 2 or 3 minutes even can swing pretty easily just in 1 or 2 dungeons later. So Crrool here is waiting for the bridge cutscene. There's actually, I think the longest cutscene in the game is this segment right here. When they did the port of this game and kind of updated it some, it's like they tried to add some story and some cutscenes and other things to, kind of make it feel more like a modern game, and they've kind of stopped it pretty quickly. Like early on in the game, you have a few extra cutscenes, and then you don't. Other than some little animations showing some bonus dungeons unlocking, there's not really much in the way of cutscenes other than this, and then one where we visit the dwarves later. For the most part, we're just going to be moving right on through. This is going to be by far the fastest version of the Final Fantasy 1. Looks like we're having some slight streaming issues on Crrool's side, but looks like he is still making progress. So we're going to find out what's going on here on Crrool's stream. Looks like he's really having some issues with his internet right now, but he is still making progress. Just not entirely sure where he is. Poorscythe, meanwhile, is moving right along. In this early section, we really want to avoid encounters with wolves. Wolves are hard to run from, and they frequently get to attack before you get a chance to run, even without an ambush. So over on Crrool's side, he's up at the pirate fight. It's going to be our first use of the Judgment Staff. And it allows us to one-shot any group of enemies pretty much in the game. Like any mass group of enemies in the game, one way or the other. Any large group we'll be fighting of more than 4 enemies, we're probably going to be wiping out in one shot with the Judgment Staff if we're unable to run from it. That's the only time in the game that on the route that we strictly plan to use it, but we end up using it a lot more. And so to defeat the pirates, we're able to go get ourselves a ship. So Crrool is now on the water. On the ship, we have a low encounter rate and very fast movement speed. Unfortunately, some of the encounters we can get are very bad encounters, specifically things with sharks, Sahagins, and the Sahagan Big Eyes. Looks like Crrool gets himself a lone shark. He's going to choose to attack it because the lone shark is actually really hard to run from. It's usually faster just to kill it. Meanwhile, Poorscythe gets over to the pirates. He's just having the worst encounter luck right now. I'm not sure I've seen this bad this early on encounter lucks. Meanwhile, Crrool is stuck on some wolves. So this early in the game, it's not as big a deal, but generally speaking, when we heal our warrior and our thief in the early game, we try to keep them under about 70 hit points or so, but they'll almost certainly lose more than 20 between here and when we need them to die. There is a point later in the run, about the midway point, where we need the warrior and the thief to die in a grinding fight so that we can get double experience for our 2 mages, so they can learn some spells later on in the run. Our grinding session only lasts about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, so it is not a very grindy run at all. It's just random encounters are the big thing here. Alright, so Crrool is working his way down to the Marsh Cave while Poorscythe is in Elfheim. I didn't see if Crrool went to Elfheim already. There's about 3 different points you can visit Elfheim here to buy some gold needles, which we do for safety. There are some enemies later in the game that can petrify us, and without gold needles, we can't get unpetrified. In a perfect run, you would never get petrified, and visiting the Elfheim would be a time loss. But most of the time, you at least have at least 1 petrification. Earlier today, I had all 4 of my party members get petrified. And Crrool just had a near miss on getting stun locked, or we call paralocked, getting paralyzed all 4 of your characters. He had 3 of his character paralyzed. When you get all 4 paralyzed, it can be a serious time loss as you're waiting for your characters to get unstunned so you can use a Judgment Staff to escape. So he got lucky there, or unlucky, depending on how you want to look at it. And Crrool is about to hit our first what we call spike tiles. These are tiles that when you walk on them have known encounters. This one always has a certain number of Pisco demons. It's also why it's kind of flagged as a mini-boss fight. It is the... because of this, anytime you fight Pisco demons, they will be unrunnable. Later in the game, that'll make a difference in the Marsh Cave and possibly in the Cave of Earth. And Crrool's going to go and pick up the crown. So the crown is the first item in a long chain on this big fetch quest we have to do here at the beginning of the game. So we are trying to go out west by Mount Drugar through a canal we need to open up to access the rest of the game world. In order to do that, we need an item called the Nitro Powder. It's called the TNT in the first game. The Nitro Powder is locked in a door sealed by the Mystic Key in the very first castle we started the game at. Unfortunately, to get the Mystic Key, we have to go visit the Elf Prince. The Elf Prince is in a coma, and the only way to get him out of the coma is with an item called the Jolt Tonic. The Jolt Tonic is held by a witch called Matoya, who will only give the Jolt Tonic if you can restore her sight by returning her Crystal Eye. The Crystal Eye is held by the Dark Elf Astos, who will only reveal himself to you if you give him the crown. So we got the crown, now we're on the way to Astos. So we just kind of walked that backwards, now we're going to work it forward. So Poorscythe looks like he made up a little time there, actually. Playing a little catch-up, which is good. So Crrool's the Astos fight. Astos has the very high chance of casting Death on the first turn. If he does, and if it hits, you want it to hit either your thief or your warrior for a variety of reasons. One is because of a grinding fight we have later in the game. Another one is we want our wizards to both cast the Judgment Staff so we kill Astos in one round. And it looks like he gets perfect luck. Astos does a physical attack, so Crrool's got no problems with Astos. Didn't have to heal up after the battle or anything. Poorscythe is having a little bad luck getting out of the Marsh Cave. Every now and then the Marsh Cave will have an encounter list run in it. Usually it's 1 or 2 encounters. Poorscythe is getting more than that on his way out. He's also having to deal with some paralysis. So, yeah, he's having a heck of an escape. Fortunately, he gets a preemptive with these werewolves. As an ambush, that'd be very bad. Big time loss. Anytime you get ambushed, all the enemies get to go before your characters even get a chance to roll for initiative, basically. This game plays a little close to the old D&D rules in turn order. Not quite. Meanwhile, the Crrool is working his way down south. Anytime you get a preemptive is the opposite. All of your characters get a free extra turn at the beginning, and you can always escape from a preemptive encounter. So we love preemptives, and we hate ambushes. There are also a variety of unrunnable encounters and encounters that are just difficult to run from because the enemies have higher agility scores. The higher your agility, the better your odds are of escaping in a run and going earlier in the turn order, giving you an earlier chance to run. For instance, Crrool right there was just fighting the wolves. The wolves take some time to escape from, simply because they tend to get earlier turn orders even if you do get a first attempt run. Poorscythe also gets pretty good luck on Astos. He does a physical attack against the Black Mage. Crrool is back on the ship, and he's heading off to go visit Matoya with that crystal eye that he got from killing Astos. So Crrool's going to attempt to run from this loan shark. And he fails to run. He's going to try again. Hopefully he gets the second time. Yeah, okay, so he probably didn't lose any time there versus attacking. And Poorscythe having some trouble with wolves again. We really don't like wolves. So people are talking about in chat, there is a lot of fetchiness to the game early on, and after this fetch quest, we have another little fetch quest that they're both kind of aggravating, and JRPGs in general actually have a lot of fetch questing, but in the later games in the series, they hide it a little better with, story, having characters, dialogue, things like that. In Final Fantasy I, there's not really any character development. I mean, that's part of why you can choose an entire party, is because they're all generic cookie-cutter characters. So later on in the series, when you have, more characterization, more story elements, more cutscenes, they're able to use story reasons, narrative reasons to kind of hide some of the fetchiness that's in a lot of these games. Alright, will this Black Mage get away? Yes, Crrool gets lucky that Black Mage gets away on the last attempt there. So Crrool is, now that he has the Jolt Tonic from Matoya, he's giving it to the healer, who will wake up the prince to give him the Mystic Key. We're going to do an interesting little time save here. We need to get to the far right side of the castle. Right now we're close to the left side, and walking to the far right side and through the castle to get to where we need to go takes some time. It's easier actually to walk out of the castle on the left here and back in. Saves us time versus walking across the castle. So, gonna walk out, back in, then go up the right side here. We're gonna be getting an item called the Mithril Hammer. We're gonna use that to glitch an item using the equipment glitch we were talking about earlier to get ourselves the Thief's Armlet. And we're gonna put it on 3 different slots, because this glitch also lets us put armor on any of the 4 armor slots. We don't do it in the second slot because if you do a parry with an item that doesn't have a parry animation on the shield slot, it can actually soft lock the game. So the reason we're getting the Thief's Armlet is it increases our agility score, which gives us a higher chance of going earlier in turn order, and also makes it easier for us to escape from battles. So for a lot of the game, we're going to be doing everything we can to maximize that agility score to save ourselves time later on. And Crrool is going into the elf village here, selling all this knight's armors to fund the rest of the run, and picking up the gold needles that Poorscythe got earlier in the run. Yeah, this equipment glitch is pretty powerful. You ain't seen nothing yet. The next glitch we get is really gonna change the game. Is in just a minute here. We'll talk about it. It's going to be fun. Okay, so now that Crrool has the Mystic Key from the Prince. He's going back to this first castle where we had our first conversation with the king, going behind the throne room, using the Mystic Key to get ourselves the Nitro Powder, the item we've been hunting for this entire game. Then over on Poorscythe's screen, he is doing the Thief's armor glitch, or Thief's Armlet glitch, rather. Crrool gets an unfortunate encounter with Sahagins. We don't like Sahagins. They are the wolves of the sea. And Crrool's working his way toward Mount Durgar to speak with the dwarves. There's actually an upcoming cutscene on Crrool's side that is actually one of the indicators that someone's running console versus emulator. It's easier to see on your own screen because the compression on Twitch kind of hides it. And the upcoming, there's a very short full motion video we skipped most of, where there's some very apparent artifact lines that are show up more in the emulated version than on the console version on the screen. Some distortions. But we're not going to see them at all very well, both because they're both running console, and secondly, even if they weren't, the nature of streaming kind of hides it. If you're running it yourself, though, you'll definitely see a difference. Alrighty, so now that peninsula has kind of been blown up, we now have a canal to get out in the rest of the game and go start dealing with the four fiends of earth, fire, wind, and water. But first, we're going to make a quick stop by the village of Melman and do the most important menu in the game. The entire reason we have the warrior in our party is he can equip an item called the Steel Gloves. The Steel Gloves can be bought here in the village of Melman, and the Steel Gloves can be glitched into an item called the Barbarian Sword. The Barbarian Sword is about triple the power of the next most powerful weapon in the game, between its just incredibly high weapon stats and the fact that it increases your strength stat as well. So we'll be one-shotting some mini-bosses and single-cycling most of the bosses in the game. Since only the warrior can equip the Steel Gloves to initiate the equipment glitch, we actually have to swap the order of the white mage and the black mage in order to get the weapon onto every character. Usually this weapon, the Barbarian Sword, can only be achieved by defeating the hardest version of the hardest kind of post-game super dungeon super boss, Chronodia, after doing the hardest version of the Labyrinth of Time. Very, very hard to get, as it's a weapon that's, just so brokenly powerful that you only get it after you don't even need it anymore. But through the equipment glitch, we can get it in the, first 25 minutes of the game. So when we get to the vampire mini-boss up here, you'll get to see just how powerful that weapon is. Yeah, Poorscythe, you've got a lot. My run today, before I got wiped in the Cavern of Ice, I had over 100 encounters by the time I got to the Cavern of Ice. I think I was like at 90 when I beat Lich. Yeah, Poorscythe is having a lot of encounters. He's making good pace. You may notice it looks weird that sometimes our runners will kind of park their boat kind of far away from what looks like optimal. The reason is when you're walking on those dock tiles, you have a 0% encounter rate. So sometimes it's actually better to park a little further away instead of risking an extra sea encounter. So Crrool is in the 3rd floor of the Cavern of Earth. We usually try a safety save in here because this is the first place where you can get petrified by a group of cockatrices. There's also some unrunnable encounters here and the chance of paralysis. Crrool's coming up on the vampire. Let's see how many attacks it takes to kill the vampire. And that's it. 1 hit. And that's how most boss fights are going to look for a lot of the game. Either one hit or one turn. There are actually only 2 boss fights in the game that we can never do in one cycle. And those are the last 2 bosses. So the reason we got the party we did, well, first off, let's talk about why we're going back now. To defeat Lich, we would actually have to go past that we were just in to go defeat Lich, but there is a stone blocking the path that we have to get out of the way using an item called the Earth Rod. In order to do that, we have to get past a giant. The giant will only let us by if we feed him the Star Ruby, which we got right there behind the vampire. So there's a big backtracking section through a dungeon we have to come back through again later. This is everyone's least favorite backtracking portion. There is a way to avoid it. If you get lucky using a hidden minigame that gives the chance of getting an item called the emergency exit, but it's very low odds of it actually paying off, and most runners just don't go for it. Because on average, it'll lose you time trying to get that item. So Poorscythe is on his way to the vampire as Crrool is on his way out. The reason we got the party we did, like I said, we have the warrior strictly because he can equip the steel gloves. That's the only reason he's in the party. You would think we'd get him because he's the most powerful physical attacker, which actually, with the equipment glitch, isn't true anymore. What makes the warrior such a powerful physical attacker, in addition to his strength, is the fact that he can equip powerful attack items. With the glitch, though, we can give those attack items to anybody. The thief, who turns into the ninja later on in the game, actually has pretty strong physical attack as well, and more importantly, he has a very high agility stat. The agility, in addition to letting you get an earlier turn and run faster, sometimes you'll notice when we do an attack, it might say 2 hits, 3 hits, 4 hits, 5 hits above our character's heads. They get a certain number of hits. For instance, Poorscythe just got 4 on his thief attacking the vampire there. That multiplies your base damage. The thief has very high agility, gets very high hit numbers. So if he has a really powerful weapon, he actually ends up having the strongest attacks of any character in the game. So we have the thief because he's actually our most powerful attacker with the equipment glitch. The white mage we have strictly for healing. Specifically in the last boss fight, we need her to heal a lot. She is in the party just for that. The black mage we have for 2 reasons. One is for the spell haste, which doubles the number of hits you get in attack, so it basically doubles your attack damage again. And he also can learn a spell called teleport, which we'll be using later on to do some backtracking. You may have seen on that 3rd floor, we've been fighting anytime we ran across Pisco Demons. You cannot run from Pisco Demon encounters. And there are a variety of encounters in the game, and that's the first one you run across that cannot be escaped from running. Most of them are flagged at some point as being a mini-boss, like the Pisco Demons. But unlike later Final Fantasy games, if you can't run from a battle, there's no prompt that says, hey, you can't run. You just can't run. So it may just look like a failed run attempt. So one of the harder things to learn this game is kind of memorizing which encounters you can and cannot run from. And some are weird. Like if there's a single vampire, you can't run. If it's 2 or more vampires, you can. Or if there's an ogre mage, you can. There's an ogre, you cannot. If there's an ogre mage and Hyenodon, you can. And so just kind of learning the tricks with that is probably the most difficult thing in the run, but you get used to it. Crrool is on his way back down into the Cavern of Earth now that he has the Earth Rod that he got from the Sage. And he's going back to this 3rd floor. This 3rd floor is where you start running into Pisco Demons and Cockatrices, and have a higher chance of getting stun locked. So, and he gets an unfortunate ambush with werewolves and wargwolves, so he's gonna lose some time there, because all 6 of them get to go before he gets the chance to even put an input in to try to run. Fortunately, he gets the run very quickly after that. And he gets a little unlucky with a bat. Those roaming bats can be a real annoyance in here, along with several NPCs in the game. And they get some Pisco Demons. There's only 3 of them. He's already queued up to attack, so he's just going to physically attack them. At 3 is the point where if he was already queued up to use a Judgment Staff, he would just Judgment Staff them. At 4, once again, it's technically quicker to Judgment Staff, but the menuing time to do it might take longer. But once you have more than 4 enemies, it's always quicker to Judgment Staff, because you only have to use 1 turn. Alright. So Crrool is making his way down toward Lich. He's in one of the longer rooms of any dungeon right now. And here on the 5th floor is where we're going to finally meet Lich. And we'd like to drop a safety save before Lich. At this point in the run, even though we're one-shotting pretty much anything we run against because of our overpowered equipment, we are extremely underleveled and we have no magic defense. Lich here has a chance of casting Blizzara. If he does that, our entire party will die. Even at full health, we do not have the hit points to take that spell. So we're hoping he doesn't do it, and fortunately, since this was originally meant to be a mobile game, we can actually save at any point. So you just save right before Lich. If he kills us, we pick it right back up, not a big time loss. And Crrool gets through Lich, no problem at all. And Poorscythe, I think, made up a little time on that last little bit. He's already back on the 3rd floor. So that little cutscene we were just watching on Crrool's end, right here, just showing the opening of the Earthgriff Shrine, which is the first of 4 bonus dungeons, where there's built into the game here that lets you get some extra items and fight some boss from later Final Fantasy games. If you ever want to fight, excuse me, the Phantom Train, or if you want to fight the Phantom Train, or who else do we have? Siegfried. In Final Fantasy 1, we have the opportunity to here. We'll even get the Battle on the Bridge theme. Those Paladin discussions down there are entertaining in chat right now. We do want to welcome anybody who's visiting from the Final Fantasy 4 Paladin tournament over on RPG Limit Break. This stream got a little delayed, which actually worked out well for me because I was able to finish watching that last race before this one started. So now that we defeated Lich, they're in the lake town over here, Crescent Lake Town. There is a sage who will give us an item called the Canoe, which allows us to travel across shallow water, which is the kind of light-colored water like we're walking against right now. We're also, while we're in town, we're going to do another equipment glitch. Get ourselves the black garb on 2 of our characters to increase our running odds once again. And we're also going to be buying our ethers to fuel our magic for the run. We don't have any spells yet, but this is the most convenient place to buy ethers for filling up our magic later in the run. So we're going to go and buy about 40 ethers here. Should be well more than what we need, but money's pretty much no object in this game. And then we're going to buy the mithril axe here, and we're going to put the black garb on our black mage and on our thief. Only at this point in the game, at least, only the warrior can equip the mithril axe, and it's just not worth the time spent doing the party change and everything to get it onto the white mage. So our best runners are going to be our ninja and our black mage. So now that Crrool has the canoe and can travel across these shallow water tiles, he's going to be using it to go to a slight sequence break in the intended order of the game. We're going to be going and getting ourselves visiting the Cavern of Ice earlier than we're supposed to, because usually it'd be too powerful for us. And we're going to use that so we can get the airship early. We're kind of meant to go fight Marilith at this point, but there's a lot of traveling to get there, and if we can get an airship, we can get to her a little quicker and have some spells before we go fight her. So we're going to do that. Unfortunately, we do have to go through the Cavern of Ice, which is the most dangerous part of the game. It's actually where I lost my run earlier today because I forgot to safety save. In the Cavern of Ice, we have enemies like the White Dragons and the Dark Wizards who have powerful magic that can wipe your party. We have enemies like the Cockatrices who can petrify you. We have lots of undead enemies that can paralyze you. We have the Mind Flayers who have a spell that has the potential to paralyze your entire party, and their physical attack inflicts one-hit death occasionally. So it's a very, very dangerous part of the run. We like a safety save before going through it. At the same time, we actually are going to make sure not to heal our warrior or our thief, because we actually want them to die in this dungeon. There's a grind fight coming up where we need them to be dead. So that battle that Crrool just got away from, the Cockatrice mummy fight there, is actually the same one that wiped me earlier today. On ambush, that they can just decide to end the game for you. So that Dark Wizard right there, if it preempts, if it gets an ambush on you, it can cast Faraga and just kind of make a bad day for your whole party. What we want to see the least are the White Dragons. White Dragons, if you get ambushed by two White Dragons and they both cast on you, there's nothing you can do. You just die. It looks like Poorscythe is about to give himself the canoe. Nightmare, it is the first white that you're listing. W-H-I-T-E, White Dragons. They're not undead dragons. We do have dragon zombies later on, though. So, those are kind of white dragons. Right, and Crrool is coming up on the grind fight here pretty soon. Right, so he's going to stop here. He's going to save, and he's going to heal his mages. And there's a spike tile up here, which always has an evil eye. We want this evil eye to cast Thundara as quickly as possible. He gets first turn Thundara. That's perfect RNG. So then he's going to attack the evil eye. Evil eye gives extremely high experience, and now it's going to be ultra high because he actually got an unlucky gaze. Evil eye got 2 turns in a row there. So his black mage dies. His white mage is really leveled up right now. Level 13 instead of level 10, but so she went 3 levels in one battle there. But we need both of our mages to be level 18 and then 1 more battle, because we need to be level 19 when we finish the next dungeon, and this will guarantee that with our known encounters that we have to fight. The reason we need to be level 19 is to learn a couple spells. Joseph, it is true that you could just do random fights to get the experience, but the Evil Eye gives a lot of experience. It is much more efficient to grind this known fight that's always on this tile. This is one of the higher experience fights in the game. Poorscythe, I am not counting ambushes. Doing so always just makes me sad. But you got another one just now, so at least one, right? Meanwhile, Crrool is working his way through the grind fight here. So Poorscythe just unpetrified his thief. This early on the Cavern of Ice, that's probably a good call. Later on the Cavern of Ice, actually would leave him petrified. That way the Evil Eye wouldn't have to kill him. That way if it casts Gaze on the first turn against the warrior, for instance, he'd be okay. Okay, it looks like he is done with his grind here on Crrool's side. So he's going to go ahead and save again because of a spike tile that could be really bad right here. If he gets an undead ambush, he get paralocked. And he gets ambushed, and if he gets paralocked, he's just going to reset to the save. Poorscythe gets Dark Wizards, but fortunately it's a preemptive, so he gets away. Crrool gets ambushed by Mind Flayers. This can be a scary one. They're casting Mind Blast. Let's see. Okay, paralyzes 2 of his characters. Then they kill his warrior with that instant death attack. So they go ahead and Judgment Stab just to finish off the Mind Flayers, just to be safe here. So at this point in the game onward, we're actually going to be taking a look at the hit point pools for our ninja and our black mage. Every time you level up, there's some randomness in how your stats grow, and that's true of most of your stats. There's 2 that really matter to us. One is agility. We don't really see that, but it affects how easy it is to run from battles. But the big one we're keeping an eye on is our hit points. When we get to the final boss battle, the final boss, Chaos, casts some very powerful elemental spells. Most worrying are Tsunami and Cyclone, and to a lesser extent Blaze if we get really bad hit point rolls. They may do enough damage that our Ninja and our Black Wizard will have at that point in the game may not have enough hit points at full hit points to survive the attack. There's an item that we're going to be grabbing for safety on the way that will allow us to, for the duration of one battle, increase our hit point pools by 200. but we're hoping that we get good hit point rolls and won't need to use those, because that basically uses up a turn against the final boss fight. The more turns he gets, the more dangerous the fight is. Meanwhile, Poorscythe is still working on the grind over here, making good progress on it. No, we are actually done with grinding for the game. That is our one and only grinding section right there. So Crrool is now taking that Levistone that he picked up, that Poorscythe just got as well, to get himself the airship. The airship allows us to move very quickly and have 0 encounters. We still have to do some long walks because this game is very, very stingy with placing grass tiles for the airship to land. So first thing we're going to be doing is landing at a grass tile in the middle of a forest and doing a long walk through forests and deserts and swamps and other things to go visit the Citadel of Trials. We're also going to do a safety save here. There's an enemy here that you can get, the sandworm, that can cast a earthquake spell that will instantly wipe your party occasionally. So we go ahead and save just in case we run across him. It's a very rare death. In a PB grinding, I wouldn't do it, but in a race, you want to go ahead and save there. Poorscythe having to deal with the ice gig is Winter Wolf battle, where you have to kill the ice. You have to kill them. It is an unrunnable encounter. And he gets an unfortunate ambush by the specters. So you gotta try to run. Looks like he is. And he gets away. Crrool is on his way to the Citadel Trials. We visit the Citadel Trials for 3 items. One is called the Rat's Tail. It's a quest item that allows us to do our class upgrades later on. The other reasons we're going are the Healing Staff and the Gauntlets, which can be morphed into the Lordly Robes and the Golden Staff, respectively. The Lordly Robes and Golden Staff together will allow our White Mage to have enough magic power to use a lower level healing spell in the final battle, so we only have to level her to level 19 instead of level 33 to survive the final boss fight. So it's a very, very important bit of items here. The Minotaur Zombie here is actually one of the few unrunnable encounters here in the Citadel Trials. The reason we didn't Judgment Staff them is because the battle is just as quick to physically attack them, and we're queuing up those physical attacks for a couple fights we have in a little while. So might as well do that menuing now. And Poorscythe is back on the boat, working his way down to the desert to pick up an airship. This Nightmare Crrool is fighting right now. It's a spike tile. There's always 1 or 2 nightmares on it. And there is a slight chance of escaping running from them, but it's very, very hard to do with our current equipment setup. So we just go ahead and fight them every time, and we just count them in our experience route. But if you do get a preemptive on them, most of us will probably run, because they've had enough unrunnable encounters that they should have no trouble with hitting level 19 by the end of this dungeon. So Crrool's getting some kind of unfortunate luck here in the Citadel, so let's give Poorscythe a little chance to catch up some here. Get some Medusas, but fortunately it is a preemptive, so he can escape. So he's got his gauntlets there. Now he's going to go pick himself up a Rat's Tail, wait for the little item jingle. Then there's going to be a spike tile in front of the chair that escapes, where we're going to fight some unrunnable dragon zombies. So right now our runners are passing each other, going opposite directions. Yes, Nightmare, that is the other kind of white dragon, you could say. Crrool's doing a safety save once again in case we run into a sandworm. Runs into some sphinxes. Sphinxes are kind of hard to run from. And it's an ambush too, which can make it a little harder to run from them, and you have to wait for that first turn. But he does get away. Third attempt and in one turn, which is nice. Poorscythe's making good progress through the Citadel Trials. If the Citadel Trials looks confusing, this teleporter maze, always take the lowest teleporter if you're given an option. That's it. That's all you gotta know. So Crrool is now in the Dragon Caves, and you can go visit the Dragon King Bahamut, one of our favorite Final Fantasy staples, who, when you present with that rat tail we picked up earlier, will give our characters class upgrades. So instead of a warrior, thief, white mage, and black mage, we're now going to have a knight, a ninja, a white wizard, and a black wizard. That will also allow us to get a few more spells. It'll increase the stats on some of our characters, and it will allow the ninja to equip more gear. If we really wanted to at this point, we could go ahead and put the black garbs on the white mage and the warrior, but the next dungeon, none of the battles are really hard to run from unless they're completely unescapable, so we don't do it. And in the next dungeon, we'll be picking up the best running gear in the game. And Poorscythe is picking up the rat's tail right now. I think he saved a lot of time on that split. Crrool had kind of a rough run in there. So Crrool is going and picking up the spells for the run right now. He's picking up Healara, which is a kind of low-level full-party heal. He's also picking up Teleport. Teleport is a little different than Exit or Warp you'll see in this and later Final Fantasy games. Instead of just taking you to the world map, it actually takes you to the previous floor of a dungeon. If you're on the first floor, then it will take you to the world map. So it kind of serves a dual purpose in this run. We will use it for both purposes. We're also going back to Elfheim. We're going to be visiting the magic shop there to pick up Haste. Haste is very different than later Final Fantasy games. This game does not use the active time battle system. What Haste does, it doubles the number of attacks we get in on a turn. So it basically doubles our physical attack power. So that's going to be very important in the last two boss fights of the game in order to get more damage done in a short amount of time. He's also going to go ahead and use the Ether to give all the magic that the Black Mage is going to need for the whole run, and some magic for now to the White Mage. While we're here in Mount Gull, we're going to be walking on the lava tiles as much as possible. Lava tiles, they do 1 point of damage to your entire party and you walk on them, so you would think you'd want to avoid them. But the bonus on them is there's a 0% encounter rate on them. So it's well worth the one time we're going to have to stop, 1 or 2 times we have to stop and heal, versus risking all those encounters. You usually get about 1 encounter, maybe 2 in this dungeon. Crrool already has 2, so he's not having the best run through Mount Gull right now. So he's healing up right here, just in case he gets ambushed and enemies cast a fire spell. If everyone has 1 hit point, it could wipe the party. And he gets a 3rd encounter, so definitely kind of having a subpar Mount Gull on Crrool's screen. Mount Gull actually has a very high encounter rate if you're not on the lava tiles. And a 4th encounter. Wow. Plus, see, yes, there is an all bosses category where we do all the bonus dungeons. I believe it's about a 4-hour run. I actually haven't personally run it, but yeah, it more than doubles the length of the game because the bonus dungeons, there's more to them than there is the rest of the game combined. And Crrool takes down Merilith, no problem. She can cast Faraga on the party, but as long as you're healed up, that's not going to be enough to wipe out your party. There also is a full bestiary run, which I think the record on last time I watched one of those, it'd be like a 11 or 12-hour run, where you fight one of every kind of enemy in the game. That's a very long run. And actually, someone in the community just made a hack for the emulator of this game that makes the random encounter rate 0. So we're thinking about doing like a meme run category on on the hacked version of the game, just to try to get the game under an hour if we remove all random encounters. I think I did mention it earlier, but Agony's pointing out that we are doing things a little out of order of intended. You're kind of expected to do this Merilith stuff before you go get the airship. We just do it a little out of order. Crrool is now visiting the desert caravan, where he picks up the fairies bottle, which is a plot item. Also picks up a number of giants tonics, which is the item I mentioned earlier that will boost your hit points 200 by 200 for the duration of one battle. And that's if we need it for the final boss. You usually do need it. So now Crrool is visiting the village of Gaia. When he walked in, the fairy he picked up from the fairy's bottle was released. Now he's going to go visit the fairy in her springs and get an item called the Oxy Ale. It's a drink which, after consuming it, allows us to breathe underwater. Now, as an actual scuba diver, I'm going to tell you, please do not consume any kind of alcohol before going in the water. But in this game, it's what allows you to breathe underwater. Now that Crrool has the Oxyel, he's going to go to the Sunken Shrine to fight Merilith, the third of the 4 elemental fiends, specifically the Fiend of Water. And he runs into the blue-haired NPC. There are several points in the game where blue-haired NPC can block your route. This is one of the worst ones you can get right here. So we go to briefly visit Fiesel's favorite video screen before exiting out of it right there. And we're in the Sunken Shrine. The Sunken Shrine has 3 different types of unrunnable encounters that can do a lot to hurt your time on it. And this is one of them, Sahag and Prince Sahag and Chief battle. This is the first battle we're going to be running across frequently, that the thief and the warrior do not have the magic power to kill when they cast a flare using the Judgment Staff. So we're going to be sticking to just our mages for now doing that. There's also a battle later in the game that only the white mage will be able to wipe out if we run across it. The other 2 unrunnable encounters in this dungeon are going to be ghosts and water elementals. And here's the ghosts. Water elementals, however, they can be escaped if they are with, I believe it's sharks. There also is a random battle here against the Water Naga, who can cast Thundara. If you don't have some hit points, it can surprise you and wipe your party. I've never had it happen. I've had it come close. So this dungeon is kind of split into two sections. The first part, you go to the highest part of the dungeon, up here to the 5th floor, which has no encounters. You have to pick up a plot item called the Rosetta Stone. We will need to learn a language in a little while. So we're going to come in here, going to pick up the Rosetta Stone, and now we're going to use teleport to back up 2 floors instead of exit, which would take us to the world map. Also, we can get teleport earlier. So we're going to back up 2 floors, and then continue down to the bottom of the dungeon to fight Kraken, the Fiend of Water. And Ghost is getting Ghost here on Crrool's stream. Crrool is getting quite a few unrunnable encounters, so giving Poorscythe a little opportunity to play catch up here. And Poorscythe is definitely getting closer. I'd say Poorscythe is now close enough that depending on how things go here, especially in the final dungeon, he actually is in striking distance. The Chaos Shrine can cost a lot of time. And Crrool is going to be walking around the side of a chest up here, because in front of the chest is a spike tile. And he's going to be picking up an item called the Light Axe. The Light Axe will be able to be morphed into the survival gear, which is the best running gear we get in the run. We're going to put survival gear on all of our characters, and 3 of the slots for 3 characters. We're actually only putting 1 slot for the White Mage. The White Mage, on her helmet and glove slots, we're going to be giving her Lordly Robes. The Lordly Robes will give us increased magic power, which will allow us to heal for more hit points, especially in the final battle, but also in general. They'll also make our Judgment Staff's attack more powerful for a few encounters we might run across in the final dungeon. The reason we do not put the Lordly Robes on the body slot is because when equipped on the body slot like it's supposed to be, it actually casts the regen spell at all times. So every turn, the White Mage would have that a healing animation play. So we never put it on that slot. See, Poorscythe is already at the point almost where he's going to be doing that menu. So he's making up a lot of time in this dungeon. So Crrool is now at Kraken. Kraken is the least dangerous of the 4 fiends. And Poorscythe finishes his Survival Vest Lordly Robes menu as Crrool finishes off Kraken. Mr. Flame Kraken, not to worry, because that was actually a Kraken, and it was of the water variety. You're a Flame Kraken, so you should be safe, as long as you're not similar to a Fire Hydra from Crrool. Yes, casually, Kraken is not the least dangerous of the four fiends, but in this route, he is the least dangerous of the four fiends. So both runners dealing with the unrunnable encounters right here. Poorscythe the water elementals and Crrool with the Ice Gigas Winter Wolf fight. So Poorscythe's final floor here isn't going great. He's losing back a little bit that time he saved, but he's still overall saved some time on this dungeon. Alright, so Poorscythe finishes off Kraken. And Crrool is working his way through the Waterfall Cavern. The Waterfall Cavern is where we have to go to get two items. One is a plot item called the Warp Cube we need to get into the Flying Fortress. The other is the Ribbon, which we'll be using in one of our last glitch menus. It's actually one of the more unique glitch menus of the game because we want ribbons on every character, but we're only going to have one. Now, the way we get around that is we actually glitch the ribbon into an item called the Gigantax. Then we make more ribbons out of the Gigantax. Also, the ribbon, for some reason, has an animation tied to it for parrying. It's on the shield slot. We don't know why, but we like it. It allows us to equip it in our currently empty shield slot. And the ribbon, we like it for two reasons. One is it gives us status immunity and instant death immunity. But more importantly, it actually gives us elemental resistance, which is very important for the final boss, who has a lot of high damage elemental spells. Crrool actually had a very, very good Waterfall Cavern. That's going to probably hurt Poorscythe. He's probably not going to have quite as good a Waterfall Cavern. The Waterfall Cavern has one of the higher encounter rates of the game, and there's a lot of nightmares, which are difficult to run from. Although now that we have the survival vest, we can run from them, unlike earlier in the game where it was just almost impossible. Yeah, Joseph, Kraken does 7 damage whenever you have 3 sets of armor you're not supposed to be able to even have one of yet in the game equipped. So Crrool's making our third and final visit to Melman to talk to Dr. Une. Dr. Une, I'm not sure how it's said, no one knows. But we talk to him, we give him the Rosetta Stone we picked up at the top of the Sunken Shrine, and he teaches us the language of Lufinian. That'll allow us to visit the village of Lufinia and actually be able to speak to its residents so that we can get an item called the Chime, which will allow us into the Mirage Tower. We're going to teleport out and work our way toward Lufinia. Unfortunately, Lufinia also hosts one of the longest walks of the game. We have to land very far away and walk through a lot of forest tiles and swamp tiles. And in the forest and the swamp, there's a very high chance of running into an enemy called the Minotaur Zombie, which is unrunnable. So we can lose a lot of time here to unrunnable encounters. Now, if we get lucky, we get run into a lot of Hell Gigases. Winter Wolves are kind of middle luck. Usually they're not a problem. If they ambush you, though, they can all cast a spell, which is not really dangerous to us at this point in the game, but it can take a lot of time for the animations. And Crrool has an amazing walk until he gets ambushed by Winter Wolves, of course. But even with that, I think he had a really good walk to Lufinia. So that's going to be pretty difficult for Poorscythe to make up. And Crrool picks up the Chime. He's going to go ahead and warp out of Lufinia. He didn't even really have any trouble with the NPCs blocking his path. That's, so far, a very good Lufinia split for Crrool, even with that Winter Wolf ambush. Meanwhile, Poorscythe gets to Dr. What's-His-Face, and starts talking to him about learning him some languages. And if you speak to a good enough doctor, you can learn a language in about 12 seconds. It's nice. And Crrool runs his Minotaur zombies. He's going to go and Judgment Staff them since there are 4 of them. And yes, it does appear that I keep cursing Crrool, but I'm trying to keep the race close. So I'm kind of required to do that. But usually in that walk, you expect on a race luck, 3 or 4 unrunnable encounters. So that's a pretty good split Crrool just had there. Now he's going to go to the Mirage Tower. The Mirage Tower has a high encounter rate, especially on the 2nd floor. One of the highest encounter rates in the game. So we're going to probably be seeing lots of them. There are only 2 unrunnable encounters in here, though. The Blue Dragon, which is very rare, and the single vampire. There's a single vampire that's unrunnable because it's flagged that mini boss we fought right after getting the Barbarian Sword. Now there will be a Blue Dragon we'll definitely be fighting as a spike tile. Fight that every time. The other one I think is like a 1 in 64 chance, very rare. There is another 1 in 64 battle potentially coming up that we're going to save and see if we get. It'd be exciting if we do. There will be some hype. So Poorscythe had a ludicrous split just now, and has made up most of his time with Crrool. That was amazing. And yeah, basically, if you can get a time... Basically, if you can get under 140 consistently in this game, you can be competitive in a race. If you can get under 135 or so pretty consistently, you can be very competitive in this game. Simply because the luck is a very big factor in this game. That's one of the things that makes it such a fun race game. Because you can be up against a world record holder who might have a 12-minute time better than you and still potentially win. It's pretty exciting. Unfortunately, that makes grinding out PBs kind of difficult. That being said, on a tournament, the people who typically get better times are going to be the ones who move on up the tournament. But that being said, like the 2 top runners as far as PBs in the world are both in the losers bracket and are racing probably tomorrow. One of them missed the world record this morning by 1 second racing against me, and I had a terrible race. Yes, Leonis, even if you forget the Levistone, you can win the game. And that's how I got myself into the losers bracket, was I had some terrible, terrible luck in the Citadel Trials, while Leonis I think he had a death and he forgot to get the Levistone, had to go back and get it, and then had really good luck and just passed me up at the end of the game. It was amazing. And like I said, on this final floor of the Flying Fortress, there is the chance of running into the War Mech. If we do run into the War Mech, it's actually a good thing. We get some extra levels off them, which make the end of the game a little easier for the bosses. Crrool's Black Mage is less hit points than we'd like, but enough that we'll be able to survive the first round almost certainly against Chaos and just Giants tonic him. Same thing, the Ninja, way less hit points than he needs to fight chaos, but enough to live long enough to be Giant's tonicked. Excuse me. So Crrool finishing off Tiamat, as Poorscythe is fighting Tiamat. Poorscythe made a lot of time just now. Tiamat, as long as you're healed, isn't really a threat. He can cast Thunderbolt, which can wipe out your party, but if you heal up before the battle, you should be safe. So Crrool is on his way over to the Chaos Shrine. It's actually where we fought our first boss fight and picked up the Judgment Staff through the glitch. Is where we have to go to at the end of the game to go back in time and fight the final boss. Knowing that, you walk in, you see this guy walk off in this corner, open this door that was closed the first time you came through. You think, oh, okay, that must be the path at the end of the game. He's opening up the secret path to go get him. He's actually opening the secret path to the Labyrinth of Time, a bonus dungeon with some ludicrously difficult enemies that will take basically as long as the rest of this run combined to complete. Fortunately, we know better. We just go straight over the crystal here, interact with it, and go back in time. So Crrool has had a great first floor of the Chaos Shrine, and second floor. The Chaos Shrine has a lot of unrunnable battles, and one of the more annoying ones are these green dragons. You do have to physically attack them, and they can cast a spell called Poison Gas, which can damage your party. Crrool makes short work of them, though. So at this point, it's still everyone's race with Poorscythe having gained so much time in those last couple of splits. It's all going to come down to encounter luck, really. Crrool definitely has the advantage here, but the next two floors, and especially the Kraken floor, are going to really be what determines it and how good the Chaos fight goes. And Crrool is getting a lot of green dragons. That's good for Poorscythe. He gets the purple worm, which isn't unrunnable, but there's only one of them, so it's going to be a real fast fight. And Crrool's going to need to stop and heal here. Now, Poorscythe gets some green dragons, only 2 of them though. Crrool's fighting the Death Eye. Usually it's 10 to 11 minutes to the end of the game from the Death Eye. So, looks like both runners on a sub 130 pace. That's pretty awesome. And they are just neck and neck. Oh my goodness. It's probably going to come down to who gets the better luck on the next couple of floors. Oh, Crrool gets unfortunate double blaze, and I think Poorscythe's going to pass him up here. And Poorscythe, I think, is now slightly in the lead, but here Crrool overtakes him again. Oh my gosh, it's so close. Actually, both of these runners do run on console. Emulator is slightly advantageous, especially because saves take a lot less time. Yeah. Poorscythe gets himself some white dragons. And he tries to run from them. Not always the best plan. And then Crrool gets some white dragons. What's he do? He gets away on the run. Poorscythe escapes. He's gonna go and heal. Oh, he's out of magic on his white mage. He's gotta. Oh my goodness! This is crazy. All right, Crrool gets onto the Lich floor, so he's hoping not to see any Earth Elementals. They're the only unrunnable on this floor. Poorscythe is getting definitely a worse White Dragon floor. Oh, Crrool gets an ambush from the Earth Medusas. They take a lot of time in their battle animations with Gaze. Fortunately, because of the ribbon, we're actually immune to Gaze, so we're not going to get petrified. But long animations is going to give Poorscythe a good chance to catch up here. This is looking to be an extremely, extremely close race. Okay. So we typically save right here. Crrool is not going for the safety save versus Lich here. Like the first time through, Lich is the most dangerous of the four fiends. Lich has a chance of casting Flare, which can do a lot of damage to your party. And Poorscythe does not get the single round. Lich has to do 2 rounds, but takes care of him no problem either way. No one gets flared. Crrool gets an unfortunate Fire Lizard ambush. Fire Lizards can take a while to animate sometimes. The only unrunnable on this floor would be Fire Elementals, and they're very rare. And it looks like Poorscythe is back in the lead. It's just back and forth, back and forth. I think it's going to come down to this next floor, which has the potential for lots of unrunnable water elementals. So Poorscythe reaches Merilith first. So we've gone back in time 2,000 years. We're fighting older, younger, technically younger, stronger versions of the Four Fiends. Merilith casts Faraga against Poorscythe. Does a little damage, but more importantly, it's just a long animation time. And Poorscythe finishes off Merilith, followed right afterwards. The death animations overlapped. That's Oh, Poorscythe accidentally walks away, walks the wrong direction, has to fight Merilith again. That's a costly mistake. Crrool gets some water elementals that are unrunnable. Oh, and Poorscythe loses his Black Mage. And that was a very large mistake on Poorscythe's end. That might be the difference. He can't even... They only give you like 1 experience too, so it's not like he really gets a bonus from having fought them again either. Crrool's getting a lot of water elementals though. That gives potentially Poorscythe the chance to catch up. Oh, and then Poorscythe gets himself water elementals. Agony, Merilith is on a spike tile, an encounter tile that always has Merilith on it. He walked the wrong direction instead of into the stairs, so when walking back, he had to fight her again. So Crrool is fighting Kraken right now. Poorscythe is making pretty good progress right now on this floor. Okay, other than that 1 ambush, looks like Poorscythe had an incredible Kraken floor. Meanwhile, Crrool gets a 9 enemy ambush right after Kraken. So it's back neck and neck, probably. All right. So Crrool gets lucky with the encounters on the next floor. This is our first use of haste. We're actually going to cast haste on the ninja. We hope for it to go off in the first turn. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be the second turn that it affects the ninja. It's going to double his attack power. It gives a better chance of killing Tiamat in 2 cycles instead of 3. Because it doubles the ninja's attack the second turn. And Crrool gets through Tiamat. Oh, but Poorscythe gets first turn haste on the ninjas. That's going to speed up the battle slightly. Unfortunately, Poorscythe gets Thunderbolt, which slows it back down a bit. Crrool gets the rare Iron Golem. Alright, so Crrool's doing the final menu. We are at the final boss. Both of them. It's going to come down to the Chaos fight. This is going to be so close. So, this final item menu, we are going to be giving the White Mage the Golden Staff, glitching from the gauntlets, and we're going to be giving her the clothes instead of the Survival Vest on her armor slot. So, because we need her to actually have the lowest agility possible, because we need her to go last every turn to ensure that she always heals after Chaos's attacks. And I actually did not notice, did both or either runner do a safety save here? This is as close as it gets, guys. So we are using the Giant's Tonic on our Ninja and our Black Mage to increase their hit point pools. We're casting Haste on the Ninja, and every turn the White Mage will be healing. It looks like both players are having to do the same strategies here. So Crrool is slightly in the lead, but it's going to come down to what Chaos does. Unfortunately, Poorscythe gets Blaze, which is a longer animation on that first turn. So every turn for the first 3 turns, we're going to be casting haste on one of our three characters. One of our 3 characters is going to be attacking later on to get stronger attacks. Oh, Poorscythe gets an unfortunate Tsunami. Tsunami's a long animation, does a lot of damage, and is usually followed up by Cyclone. Oh, and it kills his White Mage. That is probably it for Poorscythe's battle. That's very, very unfortunate. I did not notice White Mage had so few hit points. Wow. And Agony, actually, I am on the wait list for this game at RPG Limit Break. And Poorscythe, unfortunately, dies to Chaos. And that's how the Chaos fight can go. Yeah, this game actually is a backup game at RPG Limit Break with a race between me and Zelnus. And good game to Crrool, beating the 130 time. Excellent race on his end. An excellent race on Poorscythe's end. He got some bad luck. I did not realize how low his White Mage hit points are. I've never seen one that low. And if Crrool wants to go and hop in the chat, we can start interviewing him or watching Poorscythe finish up here. Poorscythe. Oh, his white mage dies again. He might have to giant tonic his white mage. I've never seen this happen before. Hey, Crrool.
Hey, Shinbreaker.
How are you doing?
A bit tense still from the race, but
yeah, that back and forth at the end was pretty crazy. Looks like Poorscythe just now beating Chaos. I've never seen the white mage go in with 287 hit points at the end there.
287 is really low. That is definitely a very big problem if you get that.
Yeah. But he defeats it. He gets a 131.03, which actually I think, even with that death at Chaos, that would have put him in at 16th place overall on the leaderboards, to give you an idea of how good this race was.
This was a very strong race. I mean, whenever you get a race where both runners should have finished sub 130, it is one hell of a race, because let's be fair, 130s are even now still somewhat rare. So to get one in a race, and to at that point pretty much almost both of us having gotten it in a race, had Poorscythe not died, that definitely goes to show, you know, this was the console race we were waiting for.
Yeah, this would have made a great final.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But,
and honestly, this was one of the pairings that a lot of people expected to be the final of the races, of the two of y'all.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some speculation that it could be me versus Poorscythe in the finals. I guess that race isn't going to happen, but now it's just time to keep pushing through.
Yeah, and I guess Poorscythe meant to get in here and hop into chat, but yeah, on your end, you had a pretty solid race most of the way through. You had a little trouble at a few points. Looking at your roughest section, probably was that the Citadel of Trial was kind of rough on you.
The Citadel of Trial was kind of bad in terms of that it had a lot of encounters, but then the encounters themselves weren't all that bad. So, you know, I think I had one ambush or so in Citadel, and the rest of it was fairly solid in terms of, you know, being able to run quickly. So even though I got a lot of encounters, the quality of them was pretty good.
Yeah. And, you know, any run under 130, you know, nothing got too bad, you know.
Any run under 130, to be honest, is a run that can win you the finals easily.
Yeah, and honestly, Poorscythe, his opening was so bad. I think he had almost 12 minutes to the Pisco Demons, so his comeback was incredible. And I think Poorscythe is in the chat now, isn't he?
Yes, I just needed a minute to recover from that end.
I have never seen a white mage go in like that.
Oh, it was so heartbreaking, because that was exact damage to kill her, too.
Yeah. And, oh my goodness. That was a heck of a race you guys just had. So, Poorscythe, what were you expecting at the beginning of that run versus toward the end of it?
Complete garbage after the start.
Yeah.
And it actually turned around pretty incredibly for me. I was like a minute behind my average, which is maybe 132, 133. So I was probably on 134 pace, and then starting after I got the canoe, it just flipped completely around, and I have green against average the entire rest of the way.
Did you gold your chime split? Because that was ludicrous.
No golds.
Oh my goodness.
I noticed on the chime, I actually mentioned it to my chat as well, that, you know, you saved a second on me, and I got an ambush literally 2 tiles before the town, and if I hadn't gotten that, it would have been on par with my gold. And mind you, I have a lot of fake golds in. So I noticed when you saved the time there that I was like, okay, this might have been gold for him, probably wasn't, but this was a very solid chime regardless.
Yeah, then his walk back from the chime to the airship was really good.
I didn't have any unrunnables on that, on the walk down or back from that.
Yeah, that's where you saved the 50 seconds on me, I think, because I had several unrunnables on the way back, which is really what lost me the time there.
Yeah. But overall, that was, especially toward the end, that back and forth in the Chaos Shrine, that was one of the most exciting races I've seen. That was amazing.
That stupid Maryland tile, though.
Can I just mention that 1 in 64 mithril golem at the end there, by the way?
Yes,
I
yes.
Very nice.
Like, I have never had it in a run before. Usually
Yeah.
it takes me 15 minutes when I'm doing full bestiary to grind that one out, and then I just get it. Luckily, I knew it was unrunnable too, because that could have been an issue.
I was so mad at myself when I made that Merilith tile mistake. Because
Yeah.
I saw that. I knew where I had to go, and I just walked the wrong direction for whatever reason.
Yeah, we thought that was going to cost you the run. Turns out chaos is what cost you the run. Or really, specifically the white mage hit points. Really is what did it in the end. But that was as good as a race as any of us could have hoped for. And Poorscythe, we hate to see you, leaving the tournament. I mean, all of us have to leave at some point. I left this morning. But you left on a high note there with an incredible race.
I had a good comeback, and I had a chance, and just got really unlucky at just the wrong moment. Otherwise, I absolutely think I could have come all the way back for that one.
Yeah. But that was an incredible performance by both of y'all. Just execution-wise was fantastic, other than a certain Merilith double fight. But
that's not to take anything away from Crrool, because Crrool absolutely earned this. I just felt like I was going to be hard pressed to beat him after the opening I had, because I had so many encounters and so many ambushes. I don't know if I've ever seen so many ambushes in a run before.
Yeah, I mean, after the start, to see you come back like that, I really was thinking, like, this game isn't going to do this to me 2 races in a row, is it? I mean, you had an amazing comeback, especially considering that start you had. I mean, considering you finished at you could have finished at, like, basically the same time I had. Let's call it a 1:29:30 for, just giving a random number, with a 12-minute crown for that matter. Like, that is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I've never seen anything quite like that in terms of a comeback. I mean, I've been beaten in this tournament in the same position that Crrool's been in, where he's been leading,
Right.
and then I get
Guys,
flipped around
actually,
at the
I think
end.
we need to go ahead and probably cut it off with the Shovel Knight 80% tournament starting back up here, because we started that race a little late. So we want to go ahead. Yeah, okay. But want to go ahead and thank both of you guys for running and for letting me come in here and do the commentary for y'all. That was a real treat for me, at least. I want to thank everyone for watching more than anyone else. I want to thank Diesel for hosting us. And thank the two of y'all for just giving us a wonderful treat there in that race. And congratulate Crrool for moving on in the tournament, and congratulate Poorscythe for an amazing performance all throughout this tournament.
Yeah, and before since we still have a little bit of time left, first of all, thank you, Fiesel, for restreaming, and Shinbreaker for the commentary on the race. I also really do want to thank Poorscythe, because Poorscythe currently being probably, along with me, like the best console runner out there. I mean, I think we're pretty even skill-wise, and I think that Poorscythe was an amazing match to be able to play. I mentioned it before, I was hoping to see Poorscythe sometime in the finals. I still got to race him at least, and I definitely want to thank Poorscythe for putting up a good show and for making it so close at the end after all.
And I will say my same thanks to Fiesel and Shinbreaker, and especially Crrool. I mean, Crrool for especially organizing the tournament along with the other FF1 admins, and for a hell of a race, because I knew I was going to be hard pressed to do that, and I feel like I was playing very, very well in the back half of that run. I think the early half set me back, and I think some extremely unfortunate end game results just set me back as well. But otherwise, it was a very, very close race, and I was very, very nervous throughout all of that. So,
all right. Well, with no further ado, I think we're going to hand this on over. Get this Shovel Knight stuff going. Everyone, stick around, watch Shovel Knight. It's a whole lot of fun. And thanks for tuning in.
all right,
Follow
thanks,
the
everyone.
runners.
Good night.
Good night, guys.